So you have some crossover that you need to be careful on. That's constant. I'm not saying it's some huge amount of money, but it does exist. So if you take an employee and break down their day, it's hard to gauge, okay, I spent this number of time doing this number that. Is that really for sewer? Is that DPW? So there's a lot of gray area.
Well, you do have a time clock there, so that, I mean...
Well, everyone's clocked in the entire
day. Yeah, I know, but I mean, there is a time clock. It is possible to keep pretty accurate use of somebody's time.
Yeah, for someone that's in the office, when they pick up the phone, it's about sewer, or it's about lease, or something completely unrelated. They don't make a note of that for every phone call that they answer it. So when you have a DPW crew working on a sewer main break, then yeah, that's easy to quantify, but there's a lot of things that aren't as easy to quantify. In a perfect world, everything will be black and white, but that's not the reality of where we live.
Okay, thank you.
Yes?
I'll raise this question again and address it to Dave Donald. How can the state comptroller's audit have no bearing on the litigation when their findings would have some kind of influence on how the municipalities deal with this overall issue?
I don't have their findings. And on top of it, let's assume that I had their findings. They carry no rule. They don't carry the force of the rule of law. They're not in court.
It is recommendation.
And I don't even know what those recommendations are going to be. And I'm not going to ask my client to be bound by any more than the town attorney would advise their client to be bound by recommendations from the state controller.
But couldn't those findings be used in the litigation by either party depending on what the outcome of?
For any persuasive evidence, I don't believe so. In other words, it's not like a certain provision of the village law which is binding. Certainly, the controller's findings, whatever they may be, are not binding on anyone.
And then there would be a question for the town.
Well, I mean, I have no idea.
Whether it's going to affect, I don't know how that impacts on us. If it has any impact, it has on the town.
Anybody else?
Yes, Mark?
I got here a little late, Kyle. We were going to talk about putting flow meters and the proposal for flow meters. Was that discussed with the board tonight before I got here?
It was not tonight.
Okay, we're going to do it another time?
Something that Mike wanted in, that I didn't bring it up earlier.
It goes to the I&I, and if we can get that authorization or not, we can do it another time as well.
No, this is on the flow meters. We need authorization to what?
To rent, basically.
Which are going to be used where?
There's 5 manholes that we sent into the DEC that we were going to monitor, and we have to put flow meters in those manholes as part of the discussion with the DEC. That's what it's for. So, Mike had a proposal from a company that rents those, and if you authorize it, then we can put them in at some time. It was part of our I&I action plan that we had submitted to the DEC.
Okay. You know what the cost of it was?
I believe it's $5,000 roughly. We budgeted $20,000, but it's a lot less. And we're just going to be renting them for the study.
Okay, now why don't you make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to allow the city department to proceed.
Well, let me ask you, do we know how much it's going to cost?
We're putting on not to exceed $6,000. Was it covered?
I believe so. I thought, Kyle, that Mike had given you something this afternoon, a proposal from the company. No?
There was something that I signed and left on the
Okay.
purchase order. That might have been in there.
Okay.
Yeah, so make a motion
But then it's not to exceed $6,000.
not to exceed $6,000 to rent the flow meters.
I'll make the motion.
Okay,
I'll second the motion.
any discussion?
Yeah, just to say that it is part of the plan submitted already to the DEC.
Yes, that's one of the steps.
Furthering our I&I stuff.
We said we would have that in by the end of July, I believe.
There we are.
We're moving along, trying to stem this problem of our I&I, and this is one of the many methods that we're using, but it's a slow process. We are moving on. I'm sorry, Joe?
We have to call.
Oh, I'm sorry, call the question. Any further discussion? All those in those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. See you. Joe, thank you for your patience.
Always will. I didn't hear exactly an answer to John's question as to the status of the state audit. Have we had communication from the comptroller's office? Can anything be said about what the status of the audit is at this point?
Well, the state controllers audit, have we had communication? Sure, we've had communication. When their final findings will come out, I don't know. What those final findings will be, I don't know.
Have there been preliminary findings communicated to the village?
There are draft findings which we're not allowed to discuss.
Wasn't asking for whether or not they've been contacted. While we have a reporter here from the record, can we have an update as to the status of the landfill?
Actively looking for sites to bring the material to. Our engineer's working on a site plan for the sites so we can begin marketing it. And once we have that site plan, we're going to start looking for potential buyers and finding someone who's willing to purchase that land, offset the cost, and get it on the tax rolls.
The bid has been underway to find someplace to accept this material at an affordable cost for quite some time now. Is the issue that's keeping this from being resolved one of cost that the village simply can't afford at this point? And we're looking to find a lower cost bid? Do we actually have negotiations underway, or is it a matter that we just can't locate any sites to accept it?
There's been a few sites, let me say it this way, there's certain sites that could use this material for a beneficial reuse, and that's the most ideal thing. So we're looking at those sites, we're also looking at sites that may not be as beneficial reuse for contingency purposes. Because if we do find out that our timetable is a lot shorter, we need to have places that are viable short term. So we're continuing to look at beneficial reuse places. We haven't isolated any home runs yet, but we're still looking, we're going to continue to look. The problem is there's not a lot of landfills that need grading material right now. So when there are, we learn about them. Cornerstone is working very hard. Martelli and his staff are working very hard. But at this point, we haven't found one that's a perfect fit. But we're going to continue to find. And also, it's tied in with the marketing of the property, because if we find someone interested in the property, the amount they'd be willing to pay for that property could offset the cost, so that gives us more wiggle room. So we're kind of we have a multi-tiered impact on it right now.
All of this presumes that you have a window of opportunity provided by the DEC. Has there been any further communication from the DEC with regard to a timetable?
With regard to the timetable, no, there's not. But again, Joel, as I've said in the past, you know, we're not going to wait to hear from the DEC with regard to the timetable.
Right.
I mean, we have a job to do, and we can't sit around, but we won't sit around. You know, we need to do what we need to do.
Is it simply a matter that they just that it's just been left hanging? Or?
You know, I don't know the answer to that, and you know, we can speculate on that, but at the same point in time, that doesn't remediate the stockpile, and that's what we have to do.
Right. My concern behind the question is if that's the fact that it's just hanging fire, the hammer could drop very abruptly on this, and then where would we all be?
Well, that's why we're not sitting around.
Do we see if there's a way to phrase this? Is there are there any negotiations underway at the moment that look reasonably plausible?
You know, I don't think we can comment. I would advise the board not to comment on any negotiations, because anything that we say or do here could wind up on YouTube, and it could adversely impact.
We'll end up on
could adversely impact our negotiations. Can I step outside of the village attorney role and just make a comment? Because I want to, in terms of this defibrillator incident, and because I think, you know, what happens is people live their lives here and they do things and they move on, and or they pass away, people forget who these folks are. But I think it's important. Rich Pennings, who's a friend of mine, friend of Al's, he was died much too young with a congenital lung disease. He's a great guy. His sister Marie who donated. Her husband's Dick Derwin, you guys from Goshen Savings Bank for years. That's where Dick worked. Her brother, Nick, is a doctor, born and raised in Goshen, up to Grammar School
My
High
next door neighbor.
School. Grammar School High School. Is really good, community-minded people. We really